Hey friends, this is Marilyn from tarotclarity.com. I don't know how long ago it was. I was living in this house when I did a video. I think I was living in this house when I did a video on the Matrix, and sometimes when we think we see glitches in the Matrix. And I had kind of compiled en masse several of the glitches that I've had in my lifetime. There have been more, and there have been a few since, but that video still gets folks commenting, and I still get comments from folks on that video, even though I did it a while ago. And so I thought I'd touch base with you because we had another little Matrix glitch last night, which is interesting. Now, this house isn't even 20 years old. I think it was built in 2017 or something like that. So it's going on 20 years, but it's not 20. So it hasn't had a lot of history. Now, we are the third owners of the home. But it's not like this house has been around forever and that it's got histories of people living and dying in it. When we first purchased this home, within a very brief amount of time, within days, we started experiencing some strange things. Both of us, my husband and I both. It's not just me that I'm a little strange, you know. My husband, who's a meat and potatoes kind of guy, who's not part of this woo-woo world, as he would call it. We both experienced things that were kind of like odd. So what we did was my neighbor when we first moved in, was very friendly, and he gave us his phone number if we ever needed anything or whatever. So we had their phone number. So I texted him and I said, would you mind answering a few questions? Had anybody ever passed away in this house? Now, his answer was, come on over and we'll tell you everything we know. So that kind of made me think, like, there must have been something. So I hightailed it over there. I ran over there. My husband didn't come with me, but I went over there. And they sat me down and they asked me what I experienced. And I told them the things that happened. And from saying, I'll tell you what we know, I ended up just telling him what happened. And by the time I left, they didn't share anything. They didn't tell me anything that they knew. So I was like, well, you said you were going to tell me what you knew. But they said nothing. I don't know, maybe the things that I said didn't jibe with what they thought they knew. So maybe I don't know. So I came back over home and I said to my husband, they didn't tell me anything, So the dust has settled. There hasn't been too many things. Well, frequently, not our Ring doorbell, but the standard doorbell that came with the house before we put in our own cameras. That doorbell frequently rings by itself. Now, maybe that's something that happens with doorbells as they age. I don't know. But the doorbell usually always rings in the middle of the night, which is very unsettling because nobody wants to be woken up in the middle of the night by a doorbell ringing and thinking, oh my God, somebody's at the house. And then because we have the cameras, we immediately will look at the cameras and we'll see if somebody's there. But even though there's not somebody there, we're still not inclined to open the door because you just never know if somebody's just a few feet away out of sight, So it's pretty unsettling. So that's the one thing that we've had consistently happen. Not the Ring doorbell, but the original house doorbell, which we removed. We removed that doorbell because we replaced it with the Ring doorbell. Anyway, that's the only thing that we've had. So yesterday, for a few hours in the morning, my son and daughter-in-law asked me if we couldn't babysit the little guy, because his sister had kindergarten orientation, and so they didn't really want to take him to the place. So, yeah, come on over. So they brought him over for a couple of hours. And one of the things Grandma always has is balloons, because they love balloons. And I have an air purifier that just, shoots out fresh air. And so when the kids come over, one of the things they like to do is just put the balloons on top of the air purifier because they go up in the air. And they go up in the air and they, go up in the air for like 10 seconds and then they lose their flow and then they fall to the ground. But for a couple of seconds, for certainly less than a minute, they go up in the air and they kind of dance around up in the air and then they fall to the ground and they get a kick out of it. So I'm looking at them right now, I have 4 balloons. I have a yellow and orange, a blue, green, and a purple balloon. And they were all laying, so hours after he left, hours later, there were no more balloons going up on the thing. The air purifier wasn't even going because we have our purifier set for 12 hours. And so the air purifier was done. So it wasn't even on anymore. And, I'm just we're just being a pair of couch potatoes. He's sitting in his chair watching whatever he was watching. And I was reclined on my sofa listening to something. And the blue balloon, and I only had one of each of those colors. The blue balloon, which was on the floor at the base of the air purifier, I could see all the balloons, and the blue balloon was at the base of the air purifier. All of a sudden, the blue balloon almost looks like somebody hit it like a volleyball and came flying from the dining room. All of a sudden, there's a blue balloon in the air. My husband was next to me, so I knew it wasn't him. And I was like, "Oh my God, what the hell?" And the blue balloon, then the way it lands, I can't see where it lands, but the blue balloon, the only blue balloon there was already stationary at the foot of the air purifier. And then when I got up to see where this other mysterious blue balloon landed, there was no other blue balloon. That was it. The one that was already on the ground laying. So I just turned to my husband and I was like, "Dude, what does that mean? What does that mean? I mean, did you see that?" And he's like, "Babe, I think we just got to go with the flow on this one." There was nobody in the house, nobody else in that. We are the only 2 in the house, and we were sitting next to each other. So you can make yourself crazy, but what the hell? What the heck? What do you guys make of it? So I thought, wouldn't it be fun to do a reading on that? I don't know exactly how I'm going to ask the universe to answer that one, but nobody's told us that anybody passed away in this house. Nobody told us that anybody passed away in the pool. We do have a pool, but we've had neighbors who chit-chat with us all the time, and usually people are quick to tell you stuff. Now, my next-door neighbor, as I said, he said he'd tell us everything he knew, but when I told him things that we were experiencing, he didn't share anything that he knew. Anyway, so let me pull a deck and we'll get to it. Okay, so I've decided to use the Tarocchi Milanese Bordoni 1885 by Marco Benedetti because the colors are so playful and fun. And, certainly whatever that was, it wasn't threatening. It was kind of fun. I mean, it was unsettling because it was kind of scary. When you see something that's not normal, like definitely not normal. But it was kind of fun though. I mean, it was like somebody playing with a balloon, So I'm going to ask a few questions using this deck. One question, the first one is, what was the essence? Was it to scare us? Was it to just be playful? Was it independent of us being there? It's just something it did for its own fun? So we'll do a few reads. We'll do a few 3-card reads on this because we're really sitting here scratching our heads, man. It's just crazy. Really crazy. Know what I saw. And so does he. I loved his answer, babe. Sometimes you just got to go with the flow. Wow. Now, some of you may have noticed that I dropped a card and picked it up and put it in the deck. This was the card I dropped, so it was determined that it was going to be in the spread. So, mystery. We do have a ball in this air. I mean, it was a balloon. We do have like towers of stack. Wow, look at this. Now, if we just look at it for what the image is, the air purifier is like a stack. It blows air, right? And then we have a ball in the sky. So in a way, this card sort of reflect what was going on, which is kind of crazy. However, it's also the moon card. And so the moon card it's a card of mystery. It's a card of maybe you'll never know. But I do think that's a playful nod to what the reality was, air coming from an air purifier with a balloon up in the air. That's really interesting. Okay, next card. Okay, could be a child. And 3 batons. So maybe it was just being playful. I see batons as a social suit. 3 is growth. The child of swords. The spirit of a little boy. Now, the little boy, if it was the spirit of a little boy, I mean, this little boy was awfully tall because that balloon came from an adult height. So it wasn't from like a child's, but maybe a young adult. So we have 18 and 3, which would give us 21. Oops. Sorry, 21, which would give us the world card. Let me pull it. I'll be right back. So with a deck like this, where the image is in the wreath, I mean, is that a suggestion that the person has passed on? It's somebody who is somehow connected to the land or the house that has passed on. And I asked if it was, what was the intent? Was it meant to scare us? I don't think so. I think it was meant for its own fun, for its own pleasure, for its own amusement. That's the distinct impression I get. So I don't think it was done to frighten us or anything. And, the world card, it could be, maybe I'm not understanding it as being, this tradition of the world card, the origin story would be, it's traditionally represented as a feminine form, but in the J.M. David book, Reading the Marseille Tarot, he does go in and mention that frequently Renaissance art sometimes depicted Christ as a feminine form. So it may or may not have still been representing Christ. Or it could have been a misunderstanding of the way a figure was carved, and then instead of realizing that it was the Christ figure, it became a female. I don't know. But I think it's, but at any rate, this way of depicting the world card, to me, is an ascension. It's somebody who's above and beyond, who's gone above and beyond us. So maybe it's somebody who passed away. That's why I'm getting that from here. And this is just playful and fun. And the whole fact that this is like kind of imitating what was going on. And then we have us two sitting there, right? Like, what the hell was that? Right? Just crazy. Okay, so that it was done for their own fun, their own sense of fun. Okay, I want to get to the bottom of it. I'm going to go off and I'll go into my meditative place. Some of you have asked, like, what is the meditative place you go to? Is it prayer or, what is it? I'm literally meditating. I just go off. Let me flip the camera. I literally kind of meditate, I handle and mix the cards in my maniacal way. And the entire time I'm doing it, I'm connecting, because my idea of connecting to the universe is always looking out the window and looking at the sky. Usually if there's trees, I always have to have my tarot parlor, preferably by a window. I get natural light, so I very rarely have to depend on artificial light, which is why you never see ring cameras reflected anywhere. But when you see the reflection in my glasses or on the cards, it's usually from the window. Sometimes I have a floor lamp that I put on if it's an overcast day, but it's to the side and it doesn't usually interfere with the cards. But I look out the window, you know, even in my other tarot parlor in my other house, you know, it was right by the window, you know, and I just look out to the window and I just talk to the universe and I say, whatever you'll allow us to see, you know, the universe, like, remind, you know, when I do a personal read that's not going, when it won't be for public consumption, I'll say, this is a personal read, it's not for the public, you know, what will you let me see? But when I do public videos, it's like, this is for public consumption, what am I allowed to see, to share, you know? But this was for my own privacy that I was willing to share, so it wouldn't have been something that the universe wouldn't have allowed me to see and share. But that's all I do. And then after I articulate the question, the whole time I'm doing my maniacal shuffling routine, I'm focused on the outside and looking at the universe, or looking at my vantage point. And then I just lay the cards, you know, I flip the camera and then lay the cards. Okay, so we got, the first question was that it was somebody having fun, for their own fun. Now I'm going to ask for some identification on this individual. I want to understand who this person is. I just would like to know. So that's where I'm going now with that one. Okay, dear universe. So as I put it to the universe, who or what is behind these curious things that happen in this house that is young? It's a young house. As far as I can tell, nothing's happened here since it's been a home. So, and no one's been gossiping and telling me anything. So, but there's certainly something present with us that manifests itself with some frequency, and I really would like to understand the essence of who or what that is. Seriously? Wow. Okay. 10 cups. Huh. Ace of Swords. Pull out Pinky. You know I can't be trusted anymore. So we have 21 plus 10 plus 1. 32 minus 22. We get 10. The Wheel of Fortune. Okay. Hopefully the Wheel of Fortune is close. But of course not. I just hate having to pause because every time I pause, I run the risk of screwing things up. This is a beautiful deck, gorgeous colors. If you didn't catch my presentation of this deck when I showcased it a few months ago, I hope you are enjoying this, especially the colors. Oh, the colors of the pips are just, aren't they gorgeous? Such a beautiful deck. Well, at least the devil didn't show up. At least we got that. Wheel of Fortune. Did I pass it already? Look at that. Isn't that pretty? Here we go. Lady Luck. Portrayed as Lady Luck on the wheel. Well, I think it's interesting that the first and last card both have a cylindrical shape. You know, I see the pattern repeated. We see winged features up top. And I think that's kind of interesting. Now, they don't mean the same thing, but they are an incarnate. Well, this is 21, but in some decks it is 20, and Judgment is the 21st card, but I guess it's not in this deck, so I can't speak on that. But for me, it seems like I can't ignore the cycle, the feel of a cycle, And then we have 10, which is another cycle. We have 20. Well, we have 21. We have 20, but, excuse me, we have 21. We have 10. So it's not 20 and 10, but we have another 10 here, which is putting a fork in it. It's over. It's run its course. And then a fresh beginning, a new outlook, or a new burst of energy. So whatever this is, whoever it is, maybe there's certain cycles when it comes out. Maybe it's a woman because it's portrayed as a woman here and it's a woman here. Could be a feminine entity. Ten of Cups and the Ace of Swords. So we have tens. We have a pair of tens, and this is almost a second cycle plus one. Like a second cycle plus one. I'm seeing it as a feminine form. And I'm seeing it as a cycle. I mean, there's too much going on with the 10 and the 20 plus 1 and then the 10. I hate to think that the person met a violent end. It doesn't necessarily have to have been in this house. It could have been the property. I mean, this was just land before this, this isn't a development. It's just a street that was, created for developer. They did this one block. This street, doesn't extend to like the other streets next to us on either side. They're different developments. They're different neighborhoods built at a different time. And I think this one was like land that was between two developments, and they just decided to put homes in this rather large section of land that they hadn't bothered with before. So maybe it has to do with the land. We have water. I mean, I would hate to believe that somebody drowned in that pool. Oh man, I would hate to believe that. But you would think somebody would have said something. And I outright asked the realtor, I asked if anybody had died in the house. I asked if they died in the house. I never asked if anybody died in the pool. And the realtor was like, absolutely not. Nobody died, in that house. And in New Jersey, they don't have to tell you if somebody died on the property. They do, however, if you ask. Some states may be different, but in New Jersey, because I looked it up at the time we bought the property, maybe it's changed, but at the time, if you ask if somebody died on the property, if you asked if somebody died in the house and somebody did, they have to tell you, but they don't have to tell you if you didn't ask. And I've lived in houses that had other people, other things living there before, and I really didn't want that going on in this house. I didn't want that. The last house I had, I visited like 7 or 8 times. I was a major pain in the rear end because I wanted to make sure I didn't pick anything up. Now, we came to this house, I think 3 times, and I never picked anything up until after we moved in. And that's when it all started happening. Wow. Well, there could have been a creek here. There could have been. It didn't have to be the pool. It could have been something. I see a large body of water. And if I'm seeing it in terms of the property, wow, that's kind of what I'm picking up on. There could have been water in this street. We do have water across this, we do have we do have like a water feature across the street. That's interesting. So over here could have still been part of that. Okay, let's ask one more question to fine tune it. So I'm going to ask for clues if it was. I'll go off in my meditative place and do it again, of course, but I'll put the question to you two here. Is clues for whether or not it was the property where the house is, or if it was actually somebody who lived or visited or was in this house. Let's look for clues. Okay, so I'm looking for context clues. If it was somebody who was associated with this property, bear in mind that this area is rich in Lenape Indian, and there may be others, that I'm just unaware of that because I'm ignorant. I just don't happen to know. But I know this general area is Lenape Indian. So I'd be interested to know if it was somebody just associated with the property, just the property that something happened, or if there's somebody associated with the house. So those are the context clues that I'm looking for. The sun. Okay, whatever. I'm not, I don't pick up flyers and read into them. Sometimes I'll just take note of them just to see if they show up in the spread. If they do, then I think that it's probably intentional, and if they don't, I just think it was a sloppy shuffle. If they're meant to be there, they will. Another 10 coins. So it has to do with the land, earth, right? It has to do with the earth. That's the first clue. It's a man, but I got the impression that it was a woman. But she might have been, maybe a little bit of her character. It might have been an aged woman. Maybe she identifies with me. I'm an aged woman. And an emperor. So there's two men. Two men of different types of power. This man has a lot of power. This man has wisdom. This is associating with the earth. Let's see what the quint card is. We'll pull out pinky. Clear pinky. So we have 10 plus 9 plus 4 minus 22. See, I don't even trust myself for simple math anymore. So we get the magician for that. So let's pull the magician. Okay, so it's a bagatelle here. So it's not a magician like a con man. This is like an artisan, specifically probably a cobbler or shoe repair man, right? And so we have 3 cards that suggest a man. Now the other one, when I asked who it was, it suggested a feminine form. But I didn't ask who it was with this, right? With this spread, I asked, was it associated with the land or was it associated with the house? Okay, so the first card out is it's associated with the land. Now, these cards might give us information on that aspect. I'm not seeing this as being, I'm not seeing this as being reflective of who it was. I'm seeing these cards, I'm interpreting these cards to answer the question, which was it the house or the land? So here we have like a table, some type of table. We have a seated figure. And then we have somebody who's walking towards the land. But see, I can't see this 10 of coins as not being the first card out, land. It was associated with the land. But then these two guys are associated with furniture, right? So furniture kind of makes me think of the house. And then here we have another figure that would be outside and, oh, but look, all these characters are out. Well, maybe he's not outdoors. Traditionally, the emperor is outside. Frequently, he's outside. He's not depicted outdoors here. But this guy's outdoors, this guy's outdoors, and this is, so 3 out of 4 cards suggest land. So I want to believe it's associated with the land and not with the house, believe me. So 3 of the 4 cards associate with land. The Emperor, if it was another deck, it would also be associated with land because frequently the Emperor is outside, I think, or sometimes it's hard to tell. But here, I mean, he's got a carpet under his feet, so he's definitely indoors. But he's in charge of the land. So I'm going to take it that by interpreting these cards to answer the question, is this thing associated with the land or the house? That is associated with the land. This guy's walking outside, this guy's outside. And this guy is the surveyor of the land, or he's in charge of the land. I mean, maybe there are some context clues. Maybe she was the daughter of somebody who had some power on the land. But that's not what these cards are intended to answer. Well, I'm a little bit relieved to believe that it has to do with the land, but it's funny because if it's associated with the land, it must be the land specifically where our house is, you know. And when the doorbell rings, it's like they want to come in the house. So it's like they want to come into the space. I mean, would they even know what a doorbell was? I guess it's common when you see a button to push it. I mean, my grandson, he was just here yesterday, and his thing is he pushes every button. If there's a button, he pushes it. He doesn't know what it'll do. He's not even 2 years old yet. So I guess human nature is you see something that looks like you could push it, you push it. So maybe they don't realize that they're pushing a button that means that they're waking us up or something. But wow, it's interesting. Very interesting. Well, I hope you found this video interesting. And, you know, do these things for yourself too. Do readings for yourself along these lines, you know, to try to make sense of something. You know, always throw cards and see what your subconscious mind picks up on, and see what you can connect to your situation. I feel a little bit better that it's the land and not the house. You know, I do feel a little bit better about that. However, it's still the outside space that the house. It's still the space that the house occupies. So that's a little disturbing to me. And you know, where the direction where the balloon came from is the direction in which we frequently have anomalies, which is interesting as well. Until next time, friends, peace, stay well, be kind, and be brave.